Have you guys have you heard of Factor meals before? Have you
Oh
seen
yeah,
gotten the ads for
I
those?
have. Yeah.
We really like them.
Hmm.
Like,
I mean, they go to podcasts to sponsor, right? We can just
let's just plug
pretend.
it in right now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Why not?
Well, hashtag ad.
Having some pork ragu, uh, pasta.
How similar or dissimilar is that to what was the one that we had? The Home
Banquet
Chef?
TV dinners.
Yes, yes.
And we welcome you to your week 10. Is this week 10, Cole?
Yes.
We're to double digit weeks. Week 10 preview of Wilk and Wiss, your bi weekly breakdown of Utah athletes in the National Football League. And we think a lot about you, the fan, as well. You, the fan, have been on my mind a lot over the last couple of days. I think everyone
Which
can agree with
which
that.
Utah fans, Tanner?
Well,
Seems like only half the Utah fans
I'm
are
not
on.
even I'm not even talking sports here. I'm just saying, you, the listener, and you, the fan, hope this is a good escape for you.
Mm.
Hope this is an opportunity for you to get away. Because it is for me when we record. Like, this is like an extra. I get 2 therapy sessions a week, and I met with my actual therapist yesterday. So this has been. I'm doing great
Love it.
in terms of that thing. Good guest today, Cole.
Heck yeah.
One of our more interactive guys on social media with the pod. Um, Play a lot of fantasy football with this guy. Have we all only ever been in the room one time, by the way? Was it at that Buffalo Wild Wings draft in 2021, maybe 20? I'm trying
I
to
think
remember. It was
22.
for Dynasty football. We welcome
Mm-hmm.
Spencer
Mhm.
Gentry to the program. Happy to have you on, man. After most of our correspondence comes over Twitter or fantasy football chats and trades. Glad to have you on the show.
You guys are about 80% of my interactions on Twitter. So I appreciate you guys making me feel like my voice is heard by one or two likes or favorites or whatever they call it on there anymore.
Yeah. Little heart, little star, whatever. I know it was
Yeah.
2022 because that was the draft in a dynasty rookie draft where I took Matt Corral in the second round. And that one did not pan out, but I've had a couple others that have worked better.
See, and I traded for DeAndre Swift that night and then made some other moves at the deadline. And that was the year I won the whole thing. And now I'm in a depressing rebuild. It has not gone my way since. But regardless to say, Philadelphia Eagles fan, obviously grew up in the state of Utah, now living back in kind of the Midwest East area. Tell us a little bit about how you became an Eagles fan. I know my dad's going to be happy to hear this story with him being an Eagles fan. Tell us a little bit about that. Also, peep the background uh, for those watching. There's something going on Saturday, and I promised I wouldn't say anything about it, and I'm still not going to. But peep the background. Tell us about
We
becoming
got
an Eagles fan.
so we got Johnny Harleen back here. Um, Speaking of BYU tight ends, my Eagles fandom stems from BYU tight end turned Eagles tight end. Um, I was in the fifth or sixth grade. I was playing football for the Cedar Hills / Pleasant Grove Vikings. Shout out. And I remember my dad saying that, we actually went to the same church building as him, but he's like, yeah, there's a guy just a couple neighborhoods over, Chad Lewis, plays for the Philadelphia Eagles. I was like, so you're telling me we got a guy up the street that he plays in the Canadian Football League. I believe his name was Ben Cahoon, and he played for the Montreal something. I can't.
It's
Alouettes.
the
Alouettes.
Alouettes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
he was like one of the. I mean, I'm no expert, but I believe he's like one of the goats of the Canadian Football League.
Ricky
But
Williams
then
played for the Alouettes for a half a second. That was my first introduction to some Canadian football.
I believe Ben was their all-time leading receiver. I don't know that he still is, but at one point I know he was. So, yeah.
yeah, so Ben was a couple doors down, and then my dad throws the bomb on me. He's like, yeah, there's a professional football player that lives a couple neighborhoods over, Chad Lewis. I was like, I live by an NFL player. I thought that was pretty cool, and especially just starting to play football. And then I'm at football practice, and I didn't know this, but I was actually practicing. We were practicing in an elementary school over kind of by where he lived, and he started to like frequent our practices. So I had this NFL player at my practices. I was like, this is pretty cool. Um, and then my dad did this cool thing growing up for me and my siblings where we just called it one-on-one vacations. Basically, each kid got to go on a one-on-one vacation with my dad once a year in the continental United States, and it was up to the kid where they picked where they wanted to go. So I told my dad I want to go to a Philadelphia Eagles game. I want to go watch this professional player play. So this was 2004 Monday Night Football, Eagles Vikings in Philly. Randy Moss on the other side. It's the year the Eagles went to the Super Bowl against the Patriots and lost. But yeah, that was my first game back in 2004, and ever since I've just been hooked. And little did I know that Chad Lewis would only be there for, I think another year or two, maybe.
Yeah.
And then, but it had, it had captured me enough that I've just been an Eagles nerd ever since.
We're all roughly the same age, and so this is a little more fun. We had a 19-year-old college freshman on earlier, and so figuring out where we got into the NFL was a little bit different. So I was paying attention to the NFL, but '04 was the first season where I remember I remember every single game so vividly. The Steelers go 15-1 this year. It's Ben Roethlisberger's rookie year, and in the path to go 15-1, you beat the undefeated Philadelphia Eagles and the undefeated and like winning streak Patriots as well, who were the two teams that end up going to the Super Bowl that year. But
Mhm.
yeah, I can just like so vividly in my mind picture every single one of those games on that run.
So it's funny you bring those two names up. Uh, so my dad and Chad were best friends growing up in Orem.
Hmm.
The joke is Chad was really skinny. If people know his story, he was a slot receiver, and my dad was actually the tight end. Which, if you've met me, you'd never guess that I come from a tight end heritage. But being 5'8" and weighing 120 pounds in high school and now pushing 200, but um, my dad tore his ACL his sophomore year, so he always likes to joke that Chad wouldn't have been playing tight end had that not happened. And then grew up in the same neighborhood as Ben Cahoon as well. Was on the same city league basketball team as Ben. And then Ben's sister actually lived down the street from me in high school. So funny how these connections all kind of pan out. But Chad's a phenomenal person. Every time I run into him, he knows who I am, knows my family. So you and my dad, that's why my dad's an Eagles fan. My dad grew up a Niners fan, and then the ownership changed, and he was like, forget this is garbage. And thank heavens he did, knowing how much I hate the Niners now. But yeah, at the time Chad was still pretty early in his career, and he said, I'm going to start rooting for Philly. So interesting. Looking, you guys are in kind of that Midwest area. A lot of football in that area. You said you live in Indiana, you work in Ohio, kind of by Cincinnati. What is the football vibes out there? Both, I guess, both at the collegiate level and when you get into the professionals.
Yeah, it's a pretty big melting pot. I remember visiting out here because we have family out here, which is part of the reason we ended up here. I remember visiting out here during the holidays a couple years ago and going to a mall for Black Friday shopping or something. And I just remember walking around and seeing so many different like sweatshirts, people just wearing, it's like Ball State, it's Indiana, it's Ohio State, it's Michigan, it's Kentucky, it's Cincinnati. It's just like crazy. I'm used to just seeing like BYU, Utah, and maybe some Utah State, and that's it really. But here it's just, and then you mix in the professional teams, and you mix in all the baseball teams, the basketball, like professional or collegiate. It's just like it's just a big melting pot of different fandoms out here. So you get a lot of different perspectives. I would say for right now for the NFL, the Bengals fans, I see a lot of Bengals fans in our clinic, and it's a lot of, it's the same old Bengals, same old Bengals, Zach Taylor. It's just like a repeat almost every single year. And I work with a Steelers fan. We have a patient that comes in that's a big Steelers fan, and they're all hunky dory right now. And I think you get a little bit of the pro Mike Tomlin, anti Mike Tomlin. It's pretty split, it seems like, from the people I talk to. And then, yeah, collegiately, I work with a Michigan fan, but we get a lot of Ohio State fans in there. So that's an interesting dynamic. not a whole lot of Cincinnati. Like, I mean, people, they're just not like, I don't view them as like diehard as maybe a Michigan, Ohio State. It's just kind of like, yeah, I hope Cincinnati does good.
Mhm.
And you get a
That's kind of the
couple
vibe I
like
get.
Kelsey brothers,
Yeah.
t-shirts or something like that, where it's cool to be a Cincinnati. And they're Power Five, just like BYU right now. They jump in Big 12 same time, but the whole state of Ohio, and especially so Ohio now, much like Pennsylvania, has a huge alumni base, and they've got some of the Pennsylvania's Penn State has all those branch campuses where no matter where you go in the entire state, there's a Penn State something else, Penn State East, West,
Hmm.
North, tiny town, whatever. And so you get Penn State fans just filtered in through the entire stinking state.
Right. Yeah, and the other interesting thing with Indiana being good this year is, and who knows, maybe I would see a lot of Indiana stuff regardless, just living out here. But it feels like this year, I'm just like everywhere I go, it's Indiana sweatshirts, Indiana flags, Indiana stuff on cars. So good for them. I don't have any. I know a lot of people are upset that they jumped BYU. Fair or not, whatever. I'm not anti-Indiana at all, but I'm also not like pro. If anything, I feel like I have more of a connection right now with Ohio teams and professional college teams than I do, even though I live in Indiana right now, because we are literally like I could walk to the border right now. It's like it is so
Dang.
close.
Mm.
So I might as well be in Ohio. I'm really right on the edge.
And I just want to point something out. Fans were upset about BYU, and I get it. No, this is good that they're low. This is good that they come in hungry for a couple more weeks. Anyway, that was my thoughts in regards to that. So, well, let's get to the pick 'em. Got a
Let's do it.
$25 Visa gift card on the line. Connor Henline is still in first place. Colt, we've had a lot of guests this year who grew up in Utah that have now left. I kind of like that trend that we're pulling from.
Yeah.
Connor down in Arizona, so a Browns fan living in Arizona. Who would have thought that? In first place, though. So let's get to tonight's game. Big matchup. Speaking of the Cincinnati Bengals, they are in Baltimore tonight for a big rematch. That's up there for game of the year. That first matchup between those two teams, at least by the end of the year, it should be in the top five regular season games. Ravens 6.5-point favorite at home. Keaton Mitchell might be playing for the Ravens tonight, which is a really interesting thing to think about given how good they already are. I like Baltimore at home. I think Cincinnati does give them a good game, though.
Yeah, I have picked Baltimore here too, and the AFC North is just going to start becoming the bloodbath because the Steelers have all of their division games coming, like still not this week. It's going to be six almost in a row, and the rest of the division as well is just backloaded. So we're going to find out a lot about this division starting on a Thursday night rivalry night game.
I'm gonna go ahead and maybe this is my slight homerism for the Bengals. But they played them tough. They should have won that game. Speaking of BYU players, that game was kind of lost by Rico. Um, that's just that's a really big goof up there. But I'm gonna take the Bengals.
On to the Sunday slate. We have the New York Giants and the Carolina Panthers starting out of the gate strong, guys. Uh, I'll go the Giants, I guess.
You forgot to mention this is Germany's punishment for something that happened, getting these two
Yeah,
teams.
bright
Uh,
early in the morning. How many of us are really waking up for Giants and Panthers?
like, I'm going to have family in town from the East Coast, and their internal clocks might be up, and I still don't think they would watch this game. Given that, I'm going to take the Giants. There's just no way Carolina wins two in a row. There's just not.
Yeah, I'm going Giants. I think sometimes I think the Giants are, how do you say it? They're a good bad team. They're one of the better teams that I think are bad.
Mm.
And I think Dayball just needs to let Daniel Jones loose. I think he's best when he's out running around. I mean, he is just a good athlete. Like as much as the media makes fun of him, um, and who he is as a quarterback, but that dude can run. So I think I'm gonna take Daniel Jones for a running touchdown, and I'm going to take them to win the game out east.
It was against Philadelphia that he tripped with no one within 20 yards of him, right?
Thursday night
Indeed.
game.
Uh-huh.
I want to say that was a Thursday night game. Yeah.
It
Some
seems like
kind
a
of prime
Thursday night
time.
game
Everyone was watching.
Yeah, for that kind of thing to happen to him.
Well, Denver played Baltimore last week, and now they have to play Kansas City. Both on the road. That's as brutal of a 2-week stretch as I can think of for any team this season. DeAndre Hopkins looked amazing last week, even though Tampa Bay gave Kansas City an amazing game. It's still the Chiefs. I think maybe if Denver hadn't won one of these games last year, I'd be a little more inclined to think maybe Denver gets the upset. It's not happening here. Kansas City big.
Yeah, I'm taking Kansas City as well. And now we start getting into territory of they're still undefeated. How long is this going to go? Where are those records sitting at, right?
This is in Denver?
In Kansas City.
In Kansas City. Okay, I'm taking Kansas City. Don't have much to say about that. I guess just a quick question for you guys. Is Bo Nix good, or will he be good?
There's no way of knowing.
I think Bo Nix will be a good quarterback. I don't think he will be an elite quarterback. I think he's got a Joe Flacco type trajectory. That would be my comparison. A little bit more of an athletic Joe Flacco.
Yeah.
I think
I'm taking
so.
the Chiefs.
They're on track to get to the playoffs here, which might buy the Bo Nix, John Payton thing another year, which allows him time to develop and everything. If this had gone off the rails, which it very well could have been, if the defense had played the way they did last year, and all of a sudden you give up on Payton and then everything is thrown off, that would have been bad. But just by virtue of having the same play caller and voice in his ear, I think he's got potential to be a little bit better.
Bo Nix was bad those first 2 weeks, but I've been kind of impressed by him a little bit.
I had to start him in a fantasy league the week it wasn't sure about Jaden Daniels. Like he would, and my backup was on bye. Like he was the best option, and I won. I won that week, so I'll take it.
New England and Chicago talking about the rookie quarterbacks. This is Drake May versus Caleb Williams. I'm going to take Caleb Williams because of the rest of the team, even though Drake May doing what Drake May had to do the last year at North Carolina, where the team is terrible around him and he's got to play hero ball. He's turning into that again in New England, and he can do it sometimes, and he can get it overtime on an incredible play. But then the team can't even beat the Titans. I don't think they have a shot against the Bears.
Yeah, I'd say the same thing. New England's actually had chances to win back-to-back games, which is wild to think about. Chicago's lost a couple in a row. The Bears are just due, and this game comes at a perfect time for them.
I think typically I'm really bad at, I see a slate of games and I just pick the favorite. I'm like, it's hard for me to predict an upset. I'm really bad at that. I don't know what's gotten into me today. I picked the Bengals and I'm about to pick the Patriots here.
Let's go.
And I think this is the week that Eberflus is gone.
Oof. And look,
I know aren't the Bears like typically don't fire in the middle of the season. I was listening to somebody yesterday talk about it. Every team's that until it happens. Like every team at one point in time was
the Jets
we don't fire in the middle of the season
Mm-hmm.
until it happens. And I think not the Jets. I think the Bears are going to get rid of Eberflus. I think if they lose this game, they will.
That's valid.
Yeah, and I'm a big Drake May guy. Like that guy is going to be good. Like the ceiling for May is incredibly higher than Bo Nix. Talking rookie quarterbacks, like just seeing some of what Drake May did last week, even though they only scored set 10 points through really 60 minutes of regulation. Like Drake May is going to be a really good player. But
one last thing about this, if I can, I was listening to a podcast talking about how fast Drake May is. He's like way faster than Jalen Hurts, which I know Jalen Hurts isn't like the fastest mobile quarterback, but like hearing how fast Drake May is and how fast he ran at the combine, like that dude has wheels. And I didn't know that. Maybe it's because he's white, but I just didn't know how fast he was.
The Daniel Jones effect.
Something about playing at Carolina or Duke and having wheels. Like I guess Trubisky didn't get that. Or
the tar wheels.
The tar. Oh, I'm gonna have to ask my brother is a Tar Heel graduate. I'm gonna have to ask him about that. I'm gonna have to ask him about that. They got speaking of which, they got a big game against Kansas tomorrow in men's hoops. That I hate Kansas basketball more than any other college basketball team. I'm wearing Tar Heel blue tomorrow. Literally, I have a pair of Jordans in Tar Heel blue. Just wanted to throw that out into the universe. Cole, your Steelers have an interesting one. They're in DC taking on the Commanders. I'm going to go with Pittsburgh. I think Washington's kind of due a loss at this point, even though the Commanders are favored, even though they're at home. Um, I like. This is a good game, I think, for Pittsburgh to introduce those deadline additions that they added that I liked a lot. I like Pittsburgh on the road.
Yeah, this is still a rookie quarterback versus Mike Tomlin, and had Washington gone the way that we thought they would in the preseason and they were terrible, honestly, I'd be more inclined to pick Washington here with a crazy upset. But I think the Pittsburgh defense has a real chance of, keeping things solid here.
Well, I've gone back and forth on this game. I can't decide if I think the Marshawn Lattimore ad is legit or not. I'm not I'm no corner expert, but he's not what he once was. But I don't know. I think this Commanders team, I think unfortunately being in the same division as them, it's scary playing or having Jaden Daniels in our division for years to come. Um, I'm very afraid of that. But that dude's just he's got it, man. He has got it. And I think at home it saddens me how much their new ownership has turned things around, but I think they're a legit team. And I'm gonna take the Commanders here.
Yeah, as a man that's had the Browns in his division my entire life, it's nice to know that you got those 2 wins just sitting there, and now Washington's not that team anymore.
Yep.
Buffalo and Indy. Indy had a chance to play a little spoiler with the Joe Flacco effect last Sunday night. They're in turmoil, and I'm going to take Buffalo to take advantage of it.
Yeah, I'm surprised it's only a 4-point spread the way things are going for the Colts right now. My buddy's back from his trip. He was in Buffalo on Sunday, got back late last night, was at work today, showed me pictures. I'm very, very amped up about Buffalo right now. So there's probably some recency bias just seeing what a good time he had in the whole city, not just at the game on Sunday, which obviously that was, he said, a spiritual experience for him being there for a 61-yard game-winning field goal. He's got drunk guys giving him headlocks and noogies with his wife, just random strangers, that's just the beauty of football, man. And Buffalo's a great place for that. And the vibes are great right now. They're not great in Indy. Taking the Bills.
I think if I wasn't an Eagles fan and I didn't live in the Cincinnati area, I think top of my list of fandoms to be a part of would be Bills Mafia. That they just like live and breathe football. You can just tell that's what everyone lives for the whole week. They work the whole week just to get to Sunday. And I don't know that I'd do the whole jump off the table or jump off onto the table type thing. I'm too old for that. But I think, yeah, I'm taking the Bills. My sister-in-law is a season ticket holder to the Colts, and the vibes are they're just not it right now. I think the benching of Anthony Richardson was a mistake. You knew he was a project. That's why you drafted him. I mean, the dude is just an elite athlete, and you're betting on that. And to bench him 10 games into his career, I mean, I know he wasn't playing great, but come on, you understood that's what you were getting into. I got the Bills here. I got them big.
Let's get to Minnesota in Jacksonville. The Vikings schedule favors them yet again. And yeah, I'm going to take Minnesota on the road. Even though there's a tiny part of me that says this is the perfect game for Jacksonville to pick up another win, I'm just going to go with the Vikings.
No, last week was the perfect game for Jacksonville to pick up the win. They couldn't do it despite everything going their way and Philadelphia trying to help them along the way. It's this one, Jacksonville has the big letdown after not getting it done last week. I'm taking Minnesota.
Oh man, we could have a whole nother podcast after this about that game.
It's the whole reason you're on the show.
That's right. Yeah, I got Minnesota big. I think I got an alert today saying Trevor Lawrence is unlikely to play this week. Yeah, I got Minnesota big, blitzing Mac Jones to till the cows come home.
So now I'm going to have 4 active starting quarterbacks for my dynasty team because I got Mac Jones coming back Those long stocks are coming through. Mac Jones, Tua off of injury, Sam Darnold still hanging around.
And,
Some other guy. Andy Dalton's not back yet. I mean, I have that has been my dynasty strategy is collecting, and sometimes it gets me a win against legitimately better teams, like Spencer Gentry last week.
We don't have to talk about last
oh,
week.
you guys really were on edge last week against each other. My gosh.
It was, and also I had Saquon, he had Jalen Hurts. It was.
Mm.
We don't talk about it.
You're still going to the playoffs. It's going to be fine. We got Tanner. We should save Philadelphia Dallas for like very last
Let's do
before
it.
prime time.
Yeah,
so
let's do it.
let's fire through a couple more. NFC South, Atlanta versus New Orleans. No more Dennis Allen. I love picking the team that does
You
the
do.
coaching change or the QB change. Not here. It's Atlanta.
Yeah, man. Like somehow the Saints are a worse. I said this on our Monday show that somehow the Saints are in a worse position than New Orleans, than Carolina, given their cap space and everything, and just no future at all. Atlanta's grooving, man. Like they've proved me wrong. They've definitely proved. I thought it was going to be a flop. Nope, Atlanta's legit. They're going to win this game.
Yeah, I got Atlanta here. I think Derek Carr is mid. I think he fits exactly the Saints organization, just mid, putting off the inevitable at all times. Yeah, I got Atlanta. Also, like I was thinking about, weirdly enough, I think about weird things as I'm going to bed. I was thinking about how much that Alvin Kamara contract doesn't make sense to me.
The
I
couple
mean,
weeks
other than
before you
just
trade Lattimore and you acknowledge
yeah,
that you need to do this rebuild, you
right.
just paid an old running back
Yeah.
three things you don't
Like
do.
the only thing that makes sense to me is like they just want to keep him a Saint for life type of thing. But like other than that, I'm just like, what are we even doing here?
Is he the Jordan Clarkson of the New Orleans Saints? Is
That's a
that is
great
that where is that
comparison.
where we're at in New Orleans? Like just a
Keep
guy
the
the fans
morale
love.
through the
Yeah,
tank.
just a guy to keep the fans happy. Which
Although
that's not even working anymore. But
I've been I'm a body language watcher, and when there's a backup quarterback in for those Saints, Alvin Kamara's body language is just horrible.
See, I remember that with Taysom too. It seemed like he just wasn't vibing whenever Taysom would come in early on.
Yeah.
49ers and Tampa Bay. Gosh, I want to pick the Buccaneers so bad in this game. Tampa let me down on Monday, though. They're probably going to let me down again. As much as I love Baker and love what he's done, I'm taking the Niners. Chance McCaffrey might play. I don't think it's going to happen, but there's a chance for it.
He better because neither team's top receivers coming into the season are going to be out there on the field. I'm taking San Francisco though.
Yeah, I hate San Francisco a lot. Probably my most hated team outside of the Dallas Cowboys. But unfortunately, I still think they're really good. Their record isn't great right now, but I can't lie. I'm still afraid of the Niners. I got the Niners here.
How about we talk about the actual best team, though, in the NFC West? The New York Giants are going on the road to face Tanner's Arizona Cardinals. And if the 49ers are going to win, the Cardinals need to keep pace. I'm taking the Cardinals.
Early in the week, I was going to take the Jets. Just Arizona's due a loss. We've won 3 in a row, 2 of which were on last-second field goals. But not today. I'm taking the Cards at home. Aaron Rodgers can eat my shorts. I'm rooting hard for Arizona on Sunday.
Yeah, I got the Cardinals here as well. I think what the Cardinals have shown, they've kind of been a weird team too. Like some games I'm like, oh, they're ready to go this year, and then other games they're like, not that, I guess. But I got the Cardinals here.
Titans in LA taking on the Chargers. Man, the Chargers have had an easy schedule this year. And granted, they've taken advantage of that, right? There's a reason that Jim Harbaugh just knows how to win games against bad football teams. And the Titans are that. So I'm taking the Chargers.
I'm trying to come up with a cogent reason why I would take Tennessee, and I don't have one. Both teams are trying to work it through the offensive line. They've got rookie offensive tackles is a matchup to watch. I don't know. It comes down to I don't think the Titans. I think the Titans coaching staff is going to get things turned around, and they have been playing these close games in the first half at least, and the Chargers don't pull away from you. Maybe that's where I come down on, but I'm going to take Tennessee. And right now, In our season-long pick'em, Tanner, you and I have the exact same record, so every game does matter. But I'm willing to stick my neck out
Mm.
here on this one. Maybe Tennessee.
This is probably the game I feel the strongest about so far.
Oh no.
Chargers by 1,000,000. I think the Tennessee Titans are so bad. I think no matter who they trot out there at quarterback, that like Mason Rudolph's probably better than Will Levis at this point. Um, I thought I was very encouraged with the Chargers actually being able to stomp the Browns. I thought maybe the Browns with Jameis, they might put up a fight. The Chargers, the last I can't remember what I was reading, but it said like the last few weeks they've been the highest um, early down pass rate. So they're finally letting Justin Herbert just sling it, which I think they've needed to do for years, but maybe they feel like they finally have the wide receivers to do it. I think Lad McConkey's
Which is
legit.
a wild sentence to say considering where we came into the season at.
Quentin Johnston, I'm like, maybe I should have bought low on him in all my dynasty leagues. Dude is just a run after the catch monster. Yeah, Chargers by 1,000,000.
If they draft Colston Loveland in the upcoming draft, that is going to that literally just thinking about that, knowing that he was a Harbaugh guy at Michigan, all that jazz. So
It's got to be America's game of the week, and it is the Welcome Wiss game of the week. Spencer Gentry. I'm picking the Eagles. Let's talk some Eagles. They snuck away despite their best efforts just last week. Saquon gets the hurdle and the play of the year, the decade,
oh
honestly.
my gosh, yeah.
Right? Like,
How have we not talked about that?
we were saving it. We got the Eagles man. So just go off.
Um, yeah, I know this is a family friendly show, I think, but I was aroused. I think is probably the word I would use.
The whole
Um,
Eagles bench stood
dude,
up at
yeah, like
attention
the
for
mic'd
that
up,
thing.
yeah, the mic'd up moments afterwards, hands on the head. It's like they just witnessed like a murder or something. They were like in disbelief. Um, just for, they're playing at the highest level for an athlete to do that to other athletes that are at the top of their line of work is just, I mean, to even think you can do it and then let alone do it. And I mean, there's just no way to accurately describe it. Just an absolutely awesome play. The Eagles, as the Eagles do, tried their best. I thought, I mean, I don't know if you guys saw the play, the Saquon fumble that was returned for a touchdown. Uh, the refs have like doubled down on it. I'm actually a pretty big, I don't know what you would say, like kind of like a ref defender to a certain extent. But I'll take this from Tanner's tweets of what's the point of reviewing it if you're still going to get it wrong.
Yeah.
I feel like if that same play happened and Saquon got back up and ran for a touchdown, there's no way that play stands. I feel like they usually err on the side of caution when it comes to down by contact and like any little touch that happens within 10 seconds of the player going down, they're like, no, he was down by contact.
Yeah.
So I was stunned that that play called or that play stood. I think they even confirmed it. It wasn't even the play stands. They confirmed it, which was just, I don't know. That was insane to me.
I'm suspicious that those words mean anything. I know that early on in the review process, we paid attention to the fact that if they say stands or confirmed or whatever, I think refs just say things nowadays. I think we are far removed from whatever things used to mean.
The last thing I'll say about that game is I'm a fan of Sirianni not being the coach next year. I'm team let's get Ben Johnson over here. But that means the Eagles would have to have a pretty bad year. But I think that game, my father-in-law called me after the game. He's like, "Have you had time to, get your heart rate down?" And I said, "Well, no, it's going to take 2 or 3 days." But I'm in these situations, I'm actually like kind of a Sirianni defender. I think this is part of why you adhere to analytics if you're pro analytics, which I'm if this was my podcast, this would be a pro analytic podcast. And I think adhering to analytics, you have to be okay with the bad results that come from taking those chances. And we're talking about one of the most unstoppable plays that the game has ever seen, and the tush push, the brotherly shove, the whatever you want to call it. And like if you get half the distance to the goal and you go for like I'm go for two every time you get it at the one and you have the most unstoppable play in history, like yeah, you're taking points off the board. I hate that phrase so much. Like, what's so hard to understand about 2 points is better than one? Like, and you have a play that's like a 90% success rate. Like, yeah, do that every time. What I wasn't a fan of is on 4th and inches in the fourth quarter,
Yep.
this tush push has been stopped twice. And so then you go away from it. It's like you have less yardage to go. And this is the most unstoppable play. That's why you tried it twice earlier. Do it again. That's
And
what
in
you
order
do.
for the numbers to work, you can't give up
exactly.
after a couple
Exactly.
losses because you do the. Mhm.
Oh man, I was so fired up about it. So my father-in-law calls, he's like, "What's he doing? They're taking points off the board." And I'm like, "Yes, that's the easy headlines that everybody's going to talk about." I actually think his decision making was good, except for that 4th and inches not going to the play that you've already tried to run. Like, what are we doing here? So anyways, I think Sirianni's getting heat. Maybe deservedly so. Maybe people agree. I actually think a lot of people agree with or disagree with me. But I actually, I like it, and that's the risk you take with adhering to analytics. So
Yeah, I'm one of those guys in high school. I like where I call me and Cole call a bunch of high school games. I like to say at the high school level, don't chase points. If you miss
mhm,
a PAT early because you don't have the most reliable kicker, well, one, you probably should just be going for two from the beginning. But if you have a reliable kicker that makes it 90% of the time on the PAT, don't get greedy and go for two the next time. Right? Like
mhm,
that's a whole different thing because these are high school kids.
yeah,
Like we talked about with Saquon, these are the best athletes in the world. And like I don't think that is stated enough in pro sports. Like pro
Mhm.
sports gets this bad rap that it's about the this is my soapbox for the day, right? Like pro sports gets this bad rap. It's about the money. They don't care. They're the best athletes in the world. Can we just appreciate some greatness for that? That was my
mhm,
favorite part of the Saquon play was his teammates appreciating the greatness, right? That video, why can't we just do that sometimes, right? Like
mhm,
as much as I hate the Los Angeles Lakers with every fiber of my being, these moments LeBron's had where he's broken the record or got to play with Bronny or different things, it's appreciating greatness, man. Like I just don't think we as sports fans do that enough. And
right.
anyway, that's my
But
soapbox moment for the day.
And when it comes to chasing points, right? You can't change your game plan in the middle. If you hadn't
Right.
practiced any of your 2 yardage games, and especially at the high school level, right? You get out of math class and then you only have a certain amount of time of practice before you go home and get some dinner in you. And so, yeah, you missed a couple PATs early. If you didn't practice any, goal to go from the 2 yard lines during the week, you can't just implement them right now just because you missed one PAT to try to make up for it. Whereas, at the NFL level, especially the Eagles, you got to keep going for it in those short yardage because they're the team that
Right.
practices the short yardage more than any other team.
right, and I will say I agree with the whole not chasing points thing, and I think that's an important distinction here. Um, they went for two the first time because they got a flag, which made it half the distance to the goal. So then they went for two. The second time they kicked the extra point, they made it, and they got a flag, and it was half the distance to the goal. So then they went for two again.
Yep.
Then the last time that they went for two, um, it actually just made sense as far as like like the
scored
score of the
situation.
game.
Mhm.
Yeah, right.
I forget if it was going to make it like I think it was going to make it was it a 8 point game, 9 point game? It made sense like as far as points go. I can't remember exactly what it was. But it's not like they were, in this instance, they weren't chasing
Yes.
the previous points that
Right.
they didn't get.
Right.
It was like, okay, they got a half the distance to the goal. So the analytics tell you should, use the most unstoppable play to go get more points than less points.
This is the most deep dive we've ever conversation I think we've had on the show in a year and a half, Cole. This is amazing.
I
Oh,
love it.
I'm taking Philly though. Getting back to the pick 'em, the Cowboys are going to be rushing home, if you know what I mean. Philly wins big.
Did you already pick Cole? Sorry.
I did. Yeah, I
You
took
did pick.
Philadelphia to
Okay.
start it
Sorry, I went
off.
on this massive tangent and making your episode twice as long as it normally is.
Worth it.
I was just teeing it up. I was saying Philly's good. Tell us about it.
Okay. Um, Yeah, I got Philly. I'm a little sad that Dak's out and sounds like CD might play, but is kind of injured. I just think the Cowboys are just a bad team this year. Their offense is like uh, pulling teeth to get anybody open. I think Dak Prescott has the highest rate of throwing into tight windows like of any quarterback. Um, and when you watch it, it just feels like that's their offense. It just feels like it's every throw is hard. So I got the Eagles. I think it's so nice as an Eagles fan to have two rookie DBs that are good.
Mm.
I don't know that I've ever had that. Like the last time I really had good DBs that I liked was Lito Shepherd and Sheldon Brown early
Oh, yeah.
in my fandom. But since then, we haven't had anybody. Howie Roseman's like, a third string lineman in the draft. I'll draft him instead of, a top end corner. So finally we've done it, and I'm about to go get a Quinion Mitchell jersey and a Cooper DeJean jersey and a Saquon Barkley jersey. My wife's not going to be happy, but I'm about to go buy all three of those.
I'm still mad the Cardinals passed on to Gene. They could have had him in two different opportunities, and it's worked out for Arizona. But yeah, Sunday Night Football, the Lions in Houston, Cole's Super Bowl pick in the
Yes.
preseason. I'm taking Detroit. Detroit does not care who you are. They do not care how they beat you. They have a million ways to beat you. And the way Houston looked last week, this is a big game for if the Texans can get this, this is huge. Luckily, the rest of the division's bad enough. Houston can kind of limp into the playoffs. Detroit's just going to eat them alive. I just see Dan Campbell absolutely pouncing at the opportunity here.
Yeah, the Texans are narrowly avoiding disaster on the season and still trending, at least they're not trending down catastrophically, right? They are trending down from where expectations and where they set themselves up for last year. Detroit's one of the top 3 teams in the league, though, and this should be a big Lion win.
Has there been a more disappointing team than the Houston Texans this year compared to their expectations?
Browns. People believed in the Browns getting a quarterback you thought was good and a generational defense, and neither did it.
I would
San
say
Francisco had some injuries. But yeah, for a team that's mostly healthy and just not performing,
yeah.
it's got to be Houston.
And I kind of thought they were Super Bowl, at least a Super Bowl level team. And like I feel like I couldn't be more wrong. I think they might get Nico Collins back this week, maybe next week.
Mhm.
He's turned into an absolute stud that I could have never. I think I traded him like 4 or 5 times between me and Andres in our league.
Yeah.
Me and him traded him back and forth a bunch of times.
I had Nico Collins first in that league.
Oh, really?
Yes, I drafted him in our initial draft and somehow didn't hold on to him. But anyway.
It'd be funny to go back on Sleeper. You can do the history and see
Right.
their whole transaction.
that.
It'd be funny to go back and see that in that league.
I'm pulling it up now. Keep going. I'm looking for it.
Nico Collins has just turned into an absolute stud. I invested heavily in my redraft leagues in him, and I got to keep him for a 6th round pick this year. And so next year I'll get to keep him for a 5th and the following 4th. And so I'm pretty excited about that. Unfortunately, I've had a lot of other injuries in that league, but yeah, I got the Lions. I think the Lions are the cream of the crop in the NFC. And I think that Texans offense is just, I mean, horrible. They're averaging negative yards per play on first down.
Or I think it's EPA, like expected points added.
Yeah, I can't.
They can't be doing negative actual yards. Like that'd be.
I mean,
oh no!
Whatever it is, it's crazy because they're ending up in 3rd and 12s and 3rd and 13s, like more than any other team ever. And CJ Stroud is just amazing and gets them out of a lot of them. But they're getting false starts. They're getting negative running plays, sacks, whatever it is. That team just can't get out of their own way. I think their offensive coordinator went from somebody I hoped the Eagles would hire as the head coach. What's his name?
Bobby Slowick.
Ben Johnson and then Bobby Slowick. And now he's kind of on the hot seat, which I could have never predicted. But yeah, I got the Lions by a lot.
And we talk about our dynasty league, and you're in that. You're I think part of a couple of the guillotine leagues that we've mentioned. Keeper leagues. Tanner and I aren't in any like together ourselves. I'm in a keeper auction league where we, in order to keep it, it escalates by $5 on their previous like draft position. So if you draft him for $25 last year, in order to keep him next year, it becomes 30 out of your budget immediately.
Hmm.
But I like when you do the snake, it kind of escalates around each time
Yep.
too.
I've never done keeper. That might be my goal for next year. I have the history of Nico Collins in our league pulled up.
Let's
Okay.
go.
He was drafted by Spencer, the other Spencer in the league. Okay. Was then traded to me, a deal late November 2021, where that included me flipping Baker Mayfield and DJ Moore for Tua Tagovailoa, um,
Wow.
and a couple other garbage picks. And he was a throw-in. I mean, he was a throw-in at this
Mhm.
point, and a third-round pick. August of next year, I trade him to Gentry along with Brevin Jordan for Mike Gesicki and a third-round pick because everyone thought Brevin Jordan was going to be this tight end for the
Yeah.
Texans, right? Gentry then sends him to Andres along with a second and first round pick for DK Metcalf and a first round pick. Was what that ended up being, which is fascinating.
Interesting.
So anyway, there you have it. That is the history of Nico Collins in our guillotine dynasty league that no one needed to know, but it came up, so we looked it up.
One last game.
One last one.
Monday Night Football, Miami and the Los Angeles Rams, two teams whose records aren't probably what we thought they should be in the preseason. They've both had injuries to different degrees, but are coming into this one mostly healthy. Miami's lost a couple rough ones since Tua has gotten back. I think I've picked them in both of them. I'm gonna pick them again here. Miami getting off the schneid against the Rams.
Yeah, usually you don't find either of us rooting against Mike McDaniel. Just the hilarity, the low key genius of Mike McDaniel, right? But I rooted against him 2 weeks ago because they were playing Arizona, and I had to root against them on Sunday because like my best friend was at the Bill. You know, like this he flew across the country. I had to root for the Bills, I genuinely do root for Buffalo, but I am rooting hard for the Dolphins. Arizona needs to get some separation in the NFC West. I just think there's no way Miami loses 3 in a row with Tua back, and I think the Rams are just kind of due for a loss, even though they've gotten most of their weapons back.
Yeah, I think I'm kind of like on the train of I feel like every week Miami plays, and I feel like I pick them to win every week with Tua at least. Without Tua, not the case. But I'm kind of like you. I feel like Miami's due for a win. Although I think that I mean there's few quarterbacks playing at a higher level than Matthew Stafford right now. That dude is just a baller. But yeah, I'm going Miami just because I think if they lose this, who knows where the rest of that season goes. They need to start stacking wins. They might already be out of the playoff picture, maybe not mathematically, but they need a win desperately. So I got Miami here.
There you have it, Spencer. Good luck on winning the $25. We'll see how that turns out after Monday night. Appreciate you hopping on, man. This has by far been our most in-depth. I mean, we're breaking down individual plays, analytic. I'm very pro analytics, by the way. Like if I coached football at any level, I'd be looking at analytics, even at the high school. I've asked around during these broadcasts I do, are high school coaches using this? And it doesn't sound like they are.
Right.
It doesn't sound like that's really a thing because how much can you really track, unless you've got a team statistician and all that. But hey, I'm team analytics, so we'll see what the analytics say on Monday. Appreciate you hopping on, our good friend Spencer Gentry.
Thank you.
Yeah, good luck. I don't even really need to say good luck this weekend to you, but I'm going to say it anyway. My dad's going to be in town, so we'll watch Eagles Cowboys at the same time. So
I can promise you this: the Eagles will find some way or another at some point in the game to make it interesting. They're not a team that really will give me many Sundays. That's just ho hum. Go out for a walk with my wife and daughter. It's stress induced almost every single week. So.
Well, hopefully this Sunday's not for you. Cole, good luck to you. You probably have the game of the week, honestly, Cole. Like, who would have thought Steelers Commanders would be our Game 10 probably toughest pick to make? Yeah. But here we are. And I'm hoping to give Mr. Conspiracy Theorist a loss since one didn't lose this week. I'm hoping the other one's going to lose on Sunday in Arizona. So appreciate you, fellas. And Gentry, thanks again for coming on, Cole. I'll catch you on Monday.
Later, guys.
Later.
Once again, you've been tuned in to Wilk and Wiss, your bi-weekly breakdown of the National Football League with Utah athletes. And as well, we like to highlight you, the fan. Please subscribe to us on YouTube. That channel is now fully operational and up and running, so you hit that subscribe button. You won't miss a single episode.